This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm pretty excited about this because today with me is my husband, Josh's dad, Dave.
Hi everybody.
Yeah, this is going to be cool. We've been married 30 years, and we've had Josh for 29. I think we need a vacation.
That's right. That's right. It's been a long road, hasn't it?
Yes. And so, a lot of times when I get ready to do the podcast, I think about what it is that I would like to talk to Josh about. A lot of times it's spurred by something that's happened that week. And this week was just very difficult for me to come up with a subject that I wanted to talk to Josh about. And, it's been brought to my attention that a lot of times maybe I don't express how I'm really feeling about what's going on with Josh, about maybe raising Josh, whatever. And I realized that I deliberately don't say certain things in front of Josh. I just, good or bad, I don't know, but his whole life, I don't say things that, I don't verbalize in front of him things that he can't do. I just don't feel, I guess it's just something where I was trying to protect him or something.
Yeah, I think so. It's maternal, it's protection, right?
But it's hard for me to, we do talk about things that he has a hard time with, but it's just that it's hard for me to, a lot of times, really express how I feel because I don't want to derail him. I don't want to hurt his feelings. I'll give you an example. He's doing this wonderful program online. I think it's through Card, but I'm not sure who it's through. But I think it's out of Tallahassee. And they do something once a week online, and it's about relationships. For example, he said this last week, or earlier this week rather, was about how to ask somebody out on a date. And so it's really cool. It's about relationships. And the thing that I would never say to him, and I can tell you right now, even though this is always going to be recorded forever, so anybody can hear it whenever they want, he's not going to listen to it. He's not going to listen to it. So
he doesn't.
All right. But the thing that that comes to mind is that he had a relationship at one point with somebody, and it was the oddest experience for me, and to observe this because he was in this relationship with somebody, and when he would talk to her, he would call her hun. And I remember thinking that, wait a second, you don't get to call somebody hun. and until you begin to, remember to brush your own teeth.
That's right.
It was just so weird. He's having this relationship, this mature relationship, but nothing else was working. And it's just such a weird experience. For me, it just it didn't mesh. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
It didn't. Well, with me, I thought, here's this adult thing, and nothing about him is adult except for the size of his body.
Right.
And it just. So I was experiencing the same thing that you're saying, but we weren't verbalizing it together.
Well, to Josh, I remember there are times where
we would say
I think most of our life together is like we experience this stuff with him, and we're like, what the
We look at each other.
What just happened? What is going on?
Oh, no.
It's like we've been confused for 29 years, right?
Yeah. Well,
It's
winging everything, it seems like.
Yeah. Well, a lot of research, a lot of really just all the therapy.
Yeah.
You know, I joke because I like that a joke that the universe gave me Josh because it knew that I needed therapy and that's the only way that I would go.
I didn't go. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, he surprised me all the time. I mean, I'm thinking that either one, he can do something that's very simple, and there's no way that it's going to be accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, here's this really difficult thing, and he dives into it and takes care of it, and it's done. So I'm really, I swing back and forth, not knowing from one day to the next what's going to happen and how things are going to go,
Mm-hmm.
or what to expect.
Right.
And so I'm surprised every year after year after year. It's just, I don't know what to expect. And then there's these things that we think that he's got under control because he's been doing this for rote over and over.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he can't do it again. I'm like, well, what happened?
Yes, you just did this. How do you not know how to do it today?
Oh
you
my
just
gosh.
You just did it. I know that for me, I can tell when there's really a change that's happening with him, day to day, and sometimes even hour by hour. Because to me, there's this clarity in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's got that clarity, he's able to get things accomplished and do things for himself. And then there's this cloudiness that comes over them. And
I see the cloudiness. I don't see the clarity. I don't think I've ever seen that clarity. He can do things that is beyond what I expect, always.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't recognize when that period of time is. But I do recognize when he can't. So
Right.
there's something there that absolutely this is not the time for me to ask him to do something.
Right.
So
Right. And sometimes you do anyway.
I do,
And
but I'm his dad, and I need to have something done. So,
yeah. And how does that usually work out?
he hates me calling him son. He says, "Don't call me that. I'm not son."
Yeah, I know. He has like those kind of things that we're not allowed to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're the parents. We should tell you what you're not allowed to do. You don't tell us what we're not allowed to do. But like these rules.
Yeah.
And then if we don't follow the rules, it's like it's dumb because we're the parents, so we should be able to do what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's so rigid and needs things to be a certain way, I know that it's easier to make the adaptations ourselves than to push some things and have him do it our way.
Right.
It's just it's still very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about Josh. I've learned a lot about myself and about people because of Josh. Really having to learn how he processes and how he experiences and how he expresses himself. But the thing that when Josh is in here with me and we do this podcast, I feel like it's important for him to express himself. I try to give him space to share what it is that he wants, what he's experiencing that week or that day. What feels overwhelming that I don't talk about usually on the podcast is just the daunting experience of constantly having to take care of another adult human. And I know you didn't. We just had kids.
Right.
We just had kids. We didn't know that we were going to have to become experts in, communication, and we didn't know that 29 years later, we were still going to be taking care of our kid. I know a lot of people do that. I know a lot of people in different experiences. I'm just saying for you and me, we didn't know. For you, I'm just saying, I just know that you and I didn't, we just had kids. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it became a life of doctors and therapists and medication and school nurses and, school principals and, me having to not work during the day because there was such a demand for me every day to do something for Josh. So that in the beginning we had no direction to help Josh. We didn't realize. So you were in the Navy, got on recruiting duty, got sent to a little bitty town in Florida, and we didn't know. Like, we didn't know that the screeching wasn't normal, or the,
Yeah.
like, it was just us. And, we just did our very best for him. One of the things that I remember seeing when he was a little guy with you is that you wanted to play ball with him, and you wanted to teach him about tools, how to build, and that was kind of a rude awakening, because every time that you tried to show him a tool, the noise hurt his ears. Mm-hmm. So he would start screeching and have like a meltdown from that. And unless you came up with like a drill that had a silencer on it.
Right, it's called a handsaw.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work. And, so the things that you enjoy doing, he couldn't participate because he didn't want his hands to get dirty. Mm-hmm. And the things that you just took for granted that you would do with your son, you couldn't do with him.
Kind of hurt my feelings, because there was a lot of sports and stuff, and I was trying to work with him about sports, and it seemed like it wasn't that it didn't click, it's just that he was not interested.
Right.
So here I am trying to do things that I think a father and son do together, mm-hmm. and that I want to share with him, mm-hmm. and he didn't want any part of it. I mean, he attempted a few, but that was it. So, kind of hurt my feelings.
And then, when you do stuff with him as an adult, he will do some things with you, but sometimes I think he gets, he's really bossy.
Yeah. I want to take control.
Yeah, that's a nice way to put it, right? He's really bossy.
Yeah.
Right. Because what ends up happening is he starts trying to take over and dictating to you how something is going to be done. Mm-hmm. And if you give him an answer, it's not seems like it doesn't take care of the issue. He pushes his point of view and pushes it and will not have a conversation about something.
Right. I mean, I'm not sure if this was spoken about in another podcast. I don't recall, but it's. Do you remember when we went down the whitewater rafts?
Oh. And
he became the captain.
Yes.
In the back of the boat, telling us which way to go. But oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think we did, because the mutiny was pretty memorable.
You're fired.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't gonna last.
But he does. He'll kind of get involved in wanting to do things in any situation. Not in anyone, but the ones that he's really passionate about. And then his thought of his knowledge level of what that he can do kind of takes over. And he's like, gets bossy.
Well, he also, so here's just a simple example. Moving, let's just say, because this happened, moving the couch.
Go ahead.
Yes. So, moving a couch from outside a doorway, inside a doorway, it takes some maneuvering, right? You have to twist it a certain direction, and both people have to be logical and on the same wavelength here in order for it to work. What happened, because this did happen with you and Josh, is that you go to do something, you give us, this is how we need to twist it, this is how we need to turn it, and then when we get in, I'm going to move this way, and it's going to swing out, and then you're going to come in. But this is just one example, but this is how it is every single time that we do anything with him. You go to pick up the couch, he goes, "Wait!" Wait. So you've got the couch, but he's waiting. So he puts his side down, and then you're just like, "What are you doing?" And then you're holding the couch, and then you have to put it down. And so then you're like, "What? Okay, we'll count."
I wasn't ready. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't ready, he says. So then you count. I go, "Okay, we'll count." You count. You both pick it up, and then he's like, "Turn, turn, 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 turn." You're like, "Not yet. You can't turn yet. Turn it, turn it." Right. And that's the way it is. And so what happens is you began to just do things yourself
without him.
Yes.
Right. Or he would get hurt.
Well.
Right. Pains. Not getting hurt, but there would be a pain.
There's always yes. Yes.
Right. So
we don't know if they're real or not.
No, right.
We don't know if they're real or not, but if they are, he has more pains than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Right. A poor guy.
Right.
Oh no, bubble wrap helps.
But it's so daunting. Sometimes that's the point, is that nothing is simple.
Right.
When it comes to raising Josh, when it comes to having experience with him, he's a really good person.
He is. And I see why people would, like, throughout his life, people in general kind of stay away from special needs individuals. And I can see why people give up so fast, and they're like, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. And, we continue on because we love him, and he's our son, and there's potential, and we know that he can do things, and we want him to be involved. And it's so hard to see that he's not adapting and getting it so that he can move forward in his life with that every time. Mm-hmm. That change, that modification that makes it okay. Mm-hmm. So it's really difficult. It's hard.
Well, yeah, because there's no rule book that says this is how to raise him, this is how to help him, this is how to be the biggest benefit to him. We just don't know from day to day. And what I was about to say is that he's a really good person. Mm-hmm. He's generous and thoughtful, and everybody has this dichotomy with him. It doesn't matter who you are. There's like the light and the dark, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter who you are. With Josh, it's a very stark difference, though. Mm-hmm. And he is both things simultaneously.
Right.
And it's so freaking confusing. Yeah. And I don't ever know what's going to happen day to day. We can have something planned, but if he gets up that day and he's not, and it's one of those days where he's not functioning, it doesn't matter what's been planned. It's not going to happen.
Right. Right. You're right.
And, I really feel like when you just said, like, with so he's got this diagnosis of autism, and yet there are so many things that he feels like he's got a handle on that the rest of us don't. Like, how can he just let things go all the time? Like, he just lets it go. He doesn't hold on to stuff. He just lets it go.
Right.
even in the middle of a conversation, which makes me crazy sometimes, because like, how does he do that? To just leave a room, where if we're having an argument, he leaves the room, he comes back in like nothing ever happened. Just, I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it.
Right.
I
think it's special. I think it's amazing.
I do too. On a personal level, though, raising him is exhausting. And I think that's why I said, at 29 we're still doing this. Mm-hmm. We do it because, he's our son, and of course that's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. For us, it's a natural path. That's what we're going to do. We're going to continue to help him as long as we can help him.
Right.
That's just what we do. Do there have been times when it's so hard. And, the truth of it is that we've worked through an awful lot. So I feel like we're heading the right direction. Mm-hmm. There have been times where I just felt like, would he be better off in a home? Because how come things are not sticking? And if what we're doing is not good enough, maybe he needs to be in a residential home, or a place where they can help to prompt and redirect in those moments, and in just a way that's different than us. I mean, because sometimes it just feels like no matter what we have to offer, it feels like it's not enough.
Yeah, I mean, and the home is just for oversight and security and safety, and mm-hmm. Because he can do so many things. He's so functional, but he's totally dysfunctional, right?
At the same time, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like his mission is to make me crazy.
Oh. We love you, Josh.
Yeah. There have been times in our journey with him that I wish that he wasn't mine.
Yeah. I think that happens. I think that happens to a lot of people, that they experience things that are just so overwhelming and daunting and continuous, and it just, you get to a point where like, okay, well, what do I do now? Because I need to do something different. This is not working. And you get these feelings, and I know I get them. And then we get back on track, and it's like things are okay for a while, and so it kind of goes back and forth. It's like a rubber band. I'm being stretched to my limit. I think it's going to snap.
I think I've snapped a few times.
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know. It's just, there's so many things that it's a complex relationship. And I feel quite often, like you say, you get to this point where you're looking and seeing whether or not there's someplace else that he could be. Yeah. And I get to a point I'm just wanting to yell. Just go out in the woods and scream or something, you know. But it doesn't happen that often anymore, right? Because he's an adult and he gets a lot more. He understands things better, and he doesn't screech.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Well, you're right. There are some things that are better. And when I feel like I've not had to constantly guide him, any given day, when I don't feel like I have to constantly guide him, at the end of the day, 9 times out of 10, what I discover is that he's done nothing. You know, like if we don't, like there's things that if we make lists for him to do, we do ask him to do something, he'll do those things to the best of his ability. If we didn't interact and interject something every day, then he wouldn't do anything. And I
And you mean anything. I agree.
well, he has to.
He would be in his jammies.
His jammies. Yeah.
No teeth brushed.
Right.
You know? And probably just hanging out all day, and he'd be okay with it. Right? I know.
He comes out to eat. Because he loves to eat.
Yeah.
He comes out to eat.
He's very good at making sure that he stays full. But, you know, there's times where he does get motivated and get dressed, take a shower, you know, whatever. But that's when there's something that he has that he wants to do.
And even that pattern fluctuates. So I understand what you're saying, and I've looked at this and I've tested this so that, because I think, you know, is he just being a little jerk? He's like totally playing us. Like, he's so smart. He's so smarter than me. I know that. And is he just getting his way? Is he just, you know, is he much more capable than this, and he's just playing us? So I've paid attention, and I've recognized that sometimes it seems like he's just being lazy, and sometimes it seems like it's just one of those times where he's not functional. Yet what happens is that when even the times when I thought, oh, you're just being lazy, things that he's really been looking forward to, he doesn't do.
Yeah.
And
that's when I know that it's not being manipulative. Where he wants to do something and not do what we're asking him to do.
But then
and that's when I know that it's not true. What my perception is not true.
Yeah, but it's like you cannot rely on what you think you know on any given day.
And the professionals out there, they give you advice, and they're wrong half the time, more than half the time, because this is a subject that is so abstract and bizarre.
Right, and I have to say that the professionals have been a huge help.
They have.
They've been a huge help.
Part, right.
So I just don't agree with it. They're wrong most of the time. What they've given some advice that seems to be off, like the advice of just leave him alone, and he's going to eventually take care of himself. Well, no.
That did not happen.
No. It's like that. No. When the smell starts coming under the doorway, it just.
Well, they tell you to make a list and stay with it, or have a board and make the board, and you'll do things off of a board, a whiteboard or something, or put it in his phone and have alarms go. None of it will work continuously. It might work for a day or two, but then it's done. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody really knows, and that's why I'm saying they might have the answers to a lot of the scientific things, but it does not. I'm looking for resolve. I'm looking for something to fix him, you know. But there is no fixing. It's just something that's a continuous care that needs to be taken. A continuous oversight, prompting, redirecting, you know, and it's daunting.
I know a lot of people that don't stay married when they have a child with autism, and that's because because the truth of it is that it's so demanding. Caring for a child with autism is demanding. I'm always cautious to speak for other people. Let me just, say it in this way. Raising Josh has been daunting. And anytime it's, before you have kids, and this is an experience that people have in general. Before you have kids, you have a certain way of living. When you have kids, everything changes. So just across the board, nothing is the way that it used to be. Even your house looks different.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's filled up with things for the kids, and it kind of takes over, and it's a good thing. But it just changes, so it's different. And with Josh, what has happened is that it's so daunting, it's so exhausting, and it is very frustrating to never have the answers. To feel like we can do something, we think we're making some progress, and then we're not anymore. And when we go to doctors and we try to figure this out, that's, I think, what you're talking about, is there's not a real concrete answer as to how do we not only help him to progress through his life, but how do we maintain our sanity? How do we maintain our health and our happiness when everything is geared towards making this other human being safe and, successful and thriving, and it becomes something that is just beyond words, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating to never feel adequate, to never feel that, for me, it's like I don't know that I'm ever doing enough for him. And there's been times that I've resented having to constantly put him first, constantly have to adjust my life, and even from the house that we live in to the place we live to the we moved to the beach, but we can't live by the water because Josh is afraid of tsunamis.
Right.
So
So we're inland far enough that we don't experience what we want. He doesn't experience what he doesn't want.
Right. And I think that's why, one of the things, you got to find that thing for yourself, Mm-hmm. I love going to the gym. That's the thing that is for me.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get on your Harley and take off down the road, and that's a freedom that is, I think, very healing, for me anyway, just to be on the bike.
He's never ridden it with me.
He won't, will he?
But going back to, what you're saying about you don't want to talk for other people.
Yeah.
I want to say that raising Josh has had the challenge of raising Josh and the issues that make us feel the way that we feel sometimes, where it's just overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Lifestyle has changed for Josh, where when he was in middle school, things were really difficult in its own way. When he was in high school, he had his own difficulties in their own way. And now that he's a young adult, medium adult, things have changed
medium
again.
Adult.
Yeah, medium adult. Have changed again, where the problems that we were seeing before are gone, but new ones have come up. So feeling the way that I felt when he was in middle school, and the anguish and the hurt and the despair are not the same that they are now. because
Right.
of the situations and him learning. He has adapted over time to different things.
Yes.
And him growing up, he's just now a grown-up person with autism.
Right.
So, whereas before he was a child with autism, and the child had its own issues, the adult has its own issues.
Right.
So, I think that I can see where some people give up and they say, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And they leave a marriage, or they take the person that they're the autistic individual and put them in a home or whatever it might be, or send them to their grandparents or their whatever. But they're distancing themselves from that individual. I can see how that happens. I think that with us, we've just kind of gritted our teeth and moved forward. And there's a lot of times that there's joy with the things that we experience with him, but at the same time, there's always the prompting, the directing, the oversight, and that I think that if people can get this point, if they're adept at staying with that, then the good overcomes the issues.
Right. I agree. There are times that I just don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
I just don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
And it's not... So when you mention people that make other choices, this happens to be the one that we made.
Mm-hmm.
But, you and I have talked about this before. Like, feeling that what we are offering, what we do, does not seem to be making enough impact. It doesn't seem to be changing life for him in the way that would seem to be necessary in order for him to be okay. For you and I, we're very fortunate. Bug has said, flat out that when we no longer can take care of Josh, then she's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the one hand, I am so very grateful. And on the other hand, I don't ever want her to have to experience this.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to... There's nothing harder than raising Josh. And he's 29, and we start talking about using the term raising him. But, what he is a wonderful, thoughtful, kind, generous human being that is so incredibly intelligent. And, I think I've already said those words here in this. I guess maybe I don't have to justify to say, oh, we're talking about these hard things about him, but he's a good guy. Maybe that's just being the mom. I feel like I have to, or being a Libra, I have to even it out. I don't know.
He is good. Mm-hmm. He's genuinely good. Mm-hmm. Where other people might have motives and stuff, he's not. He doesn't do things that are self-serving. Right. He will real. Give of himself in ways that I have never experienced another individual do.
Right. Me too.
He's amazing.
Yeah. So that is something that we get to see up close and personal mm-hmm. every day. Mm-hmm. And that has just been such a gift. Mm-hmm. It's such a gift to see the way that he views life and views others, and it's just without judgment. So he's helped me to really learn how to live differently mm-hmm. than before him. But so some people whatever their choices are, there's not just one answer that's a viable answer. those things that you mentioned are as viable for those families as this is for us.
Right.
And none of them are easy. None of them are easy.
But they're doable. I want
Yeah.
to point that out. It's doable. In our case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is doable because we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be honest if I said that this would be a choice that I would consciously make, given the option.
Right.
Given the option. It's yes, we're doing it. Some days I don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some times when I just have to I mean, I don't ignore him, but I don't.
Step away. What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say is there are some times there has to be a day or two where I just need to go do the things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found is that I really need that, and I'm getting something done, and that feels really good. And then when I go back and really, okay, I had to get this project done. I had to get this speech ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, what have you been doing?
And
then I go, and then most of the time it's like, wait, aren't those? Are you still in your jammies from 2 days ago?
and there's been. I've let you go for 2 days and nothing has happened. Nothing. And so it brings you back into the reality of what we're living with.
Right.
And
yeah, every time.
And it makes me angry. It makes me angry.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's actually part my fault because I understand that he needs the direction, and I'm not giving it to him then.
Yeah, but don't you just need a break sometimes?
I do. You want to go to Hawaii?
I want to go to Hawaii. You want to go to Hawaii? Yeah, let's go to Hawaii. All right, so I guess we should probably start to wrap it up. Do you have any?
I think it's good that I came on here because I can voice certain things that I hardly ever speak about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just know that it's, to me, it's emotional roller coaster sometimes. So
It gets derailed for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing that would be a clue as to why certain things happen. And something also that's difficult is that when people meet Josh, they don't know that he's autistic.
Right.
Because people that listen to this podcast will know he's articulate. He's very intelligent. He's thoughtful. He can be funny. And I said that last one hesitating because he says some bad, inappropriate jokes that he'll say something and then he'll look at me and goes, "Oh, was that wrong? Was that?" And like, it's already out there. It's like, yeah, probably bad timing. But that's something also that's very difficult is that he seems very, very capable. He just, you would meet him and think that he's just a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And most people don't know
And he is.
what it takes to keep him going day after day.
Right.
Well, yeah, he's a nice guy, but what I'm saying is that people that first meet him don't recognize
The disability.
that he's autistic.
Right.
And a couple conversations in, they do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that on the podcast sometimes I feel like I don't know if we're really sharing that side with anybody that's listening. That it's a constant struggle. And again, I don't say things in front of him. So what am I supposed to do when we do the podcast? I don't want to hurt his feelings. And sometimes I can't say things that I'm feeling is because I know that if I say something, it will shut him down. And I don't want to shut him down. I want for him to express and share his experiences. And like I said, is that, maybe, we're both of our kids. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to do anything to, derail anything that they're doing. But I guess what I'm saying is with Josh is that for years, over 20 years in therapy, they're always talking to me about what's going on. And we go in there together in the therapy, and he says how things are going. And I'm just thinking, dude,
what planet are you?
What life have you been living this past week? How's
it been going? Fine.
Yeah.
It's been going great.
Yeah. Your life came like an inch ending. Like I had it planned.
Oh, no.
And he shows up. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
and I understand 20 years. I mean, I went in there and he was talking about this thing, and I'm like, wait, that is not what's going on.
Yeah.
And I say it, and he did everything just kind of, you could see it. You saw him shut down. He just he was done. So
the way that we do with therapy is that I go in by myself so I can speak freely. And it's not like walking on eggshells, but it is that certain things will shut him down. Yeah. And there's also a part of this that I understand that he struggles with everything. So why do I need to verbalize the negative in front of him and to him all the time? It's not necessary.
Right.
And yeah, so that's the way that we did it was, and thank goodness that I have you, because, you're the one that I go, what the is going on?
I'm your sounding board.
Yes. And thank goodness. So, well, I feel better.
Woo!
Yes, that felt good getting some stuff out. And so thanks for doing this with me, Dave.
Oh, you're welcome.
I appreciate it. I love you.
I love you. And I'm not talking about the podcast. I'm talking about doing life with Josh.
Yeah. No kidding. Mm-hmm. All right. So I think we will wrap it up. And
okay.
Remind me. You always tell me to remember these things, and I always forget. You can listen to this on iTunes and YouTube. And my website is sonyaking.com. Twitter is Sonya King Comedy. And you can go find us and send us a note if there's anything that you want us to talk about, anything you would like to know from us as parents or Josh. You can just send us a note. And thanks.
We like hearing from you. And I mean, it's really, I think that it's a good point that when you have things that you want us to talk about, or that you want Sonya and Josh to talk about, I think that's a great thing. So really jot that down, send it over to us.
Yep. I appreciate that. All right, so thanks for hanging out. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week. Love you.